Hello on YouTube. This is Mr. Rome, aka the Icon, and then right now, like I promised, I'm gonna talk about the Noah and the flood, Abraham, and probably a little press up on the Sodom and Gomorrah, which is I have a little questions about. Um, like if sin was so great, God had to flood the earth. You know, really, that's all it was, and I really don't have nothing to say about that. See, during the flood, this is Genesis chapter 6, verse 17. I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy all living things. But you gotta think about it like this. They said within 10 generations, people have become so sinful that the Lord was sorry He had ever made them and put them on earth. It broke His heart. He decided to start over. He starts with a family of the only good human on earth, Noah. God decides to wash away the sin and the sinners with a massive flood at God's instruction. Noah and his 3 sons built the floating warehouse that's no longer than a football field, wide, half as wide and 4 stories high. The boat has a storage capacity of about 370 railroad boxcars, minus whatever interior space is used for support beams and walls. Noah loads the boat with supplies and with pairs of land animals, male and female, for 40 days, perhaps a round number that simply means a long time. Rain thunders down and gaspers spray up from the wells deep underground. By then, even the mountain peaks are entertaining curious fish. 5 months later, Noah's boat scraps to a halt, running underground, a mountain in the Ararat range. That's somewhere on the border of what is now Turkey, Iran, and Armenia. But Noah and his passengers have to wait inside for a little over a year. That's how long it takes for the land to dry out enough for Noah's family and the animals to leave the boat and begins repopulating the region. God fills the sky with a rainbow. It's the seal on a promise He makes. Never again will our flood waters destroy all life. That's Genesis chapter 9, verse 15. And then, that's been said, that's the only good family. But this is the worldwide flood. The Bible experts debate whether the flood covered the entire world as we know it or the entire world as the ancient knew it. Perhaps just the region where civilization started. The first Roman Eastern city sprung up in the fertile river valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates River, in what is now Iraq and Iran. These rivers provided water for the people, animals, and crops, and they serve as riverboat highways. Archaeologists have found evidence of massive floods that wiped out cities along the rivers. But there was another flood further north in the 4,500 BC. Geologists estimate the flood took place about 200 miles north of Mount Ararat, the highest peak of the Ararat range. I mean, this word is really blowing me. A whopper of a deluge. This flood turned the Black Sea from a freshwater lake to an ocean. It happened when the ocean broke through the narrow strip of land at what became the Bosporus Strait. The seawater rushed into the lake basin with a force of many Niagara Falls, pushing back the shoreline many miles. Whether or not Noah's flood covered the entire earth, flood stories certainly do. They woven into about 70 cultures, from Middle Easterners to the American Indians to the Chinese and to the South Pacific Islanders. The epic Gilgamesh, an ancient story from what is now Iraq, even tells of the Babylonian man who survived the flood by building a huge boat for his family and animals. So they was in Babylon. I didn't know that. I always say that the place where Noah lived at, but it was in Babylon. It's funny how the Bible always go to like the Canaanites, and then they go to the Babylonians, to the Egypt, and they go around in a circle like that. It's funny how they just travel in that little Middle East, but it's funny because the Bible, they be some of the Bible be in Africa, as far as Ethiopia. It's funny that spot right there, that's got so much history in it. It's messed. It's amazing. Not messed up. It's amazing. Like Noah, he released a dove after the flood to see if it would find a resting place. The dove came back, just as it did for Noah, and that's really Noah's story. And I really want to tell you how long was the boat. He made a boat out of gopher wood. The gopher wood, the trees don't really exist no more, so I really guess it's really a strong tree, and that's really take muscles to build. If it cut down and build a boat. See, Noah's Ark the length was 250 feet, the width was 75 feet, and the height was 45 feet. You know what I'm saying? The Ark has 3 decks. The lower, the second, and the third was the first, the second, and fourth floor, and roughly about 150 feet each. So that's how big the Ark was. So it was like a little mini Titanic. And I forgot. I also wrote the verse down. You shall take with you 7 of each of every clean animal, male or female, and 2 of each that are unclean, both sexes. Which is, I really don't understand. 7 are clean. I really want to ask the question. Can y'all answer this in the comments? 7 of each clean animal, male and female, but 2 unclean animals, male or female. I really don't understand that. I really want y'all to answer that. Another thing is 7 of each birds, male and female. Noah lived. This was a 600 year of life, and then it was the second month. It was basically February 17 when all this stuff started happening. So that's the Noah and the flood. So we're going to lead right on to the Abraham story. The Iraqi father of the Jews. Whoa, that's deep. Iraqi father of the Jews, and most of them motherfuckers Muslim. But, but the Quran, if you ever read the Quran, and for my Islamic people, quote me if I'm wrong, but they really study the book of Abraham. That's what they did. And besides, because you think about when Abraham, before I get into his story, Abraham had 2 sons, Ishmael and Isaac. As a Christian, we studied the Isaac and his and because he had twins, Esau and Jacob. So we studied through him, you know what I'm saying? As in the Islam, they studied through Ishmael, which both lead to Abraham. Technically, so if I want to read the Islamic book, because they both lead to Abraham, but they both live separate. 2 different nations, and the Bible always say, you got the Bible don't say it, the Quran, but it also says 2 different nations. You have 2 different nations. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like it's 2 different nations. Which is Islam, the Quran, and what he did, he said about, I think he said about Esau and Jacob. We get that later on in the videos. I'm giving you all this land as far as you can see to you and your descendants as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. This is Genesis chapter 13, 15 through 16, verses 15 through 16. But, Abraham grew up in a Euphrates River town of Ur, in what is now the southern Iraq. It's a New York City of its days, busy, wealthy, bursting with culture, arts, crafts, and oldest written language on record. I ain't finna cuneiform. Instead, using the alphabet, ink, paper, writers use reed sticks to press pictures into soft clay. For reasons unknown, Abraham's father, Terah, decides to move his entire family to the boonies of Canaan, which is built by Cain. Cain built the first city after he killed his damn brother. That's a bit of a New Yorker moving to the cornfields of Des Moines. Iowa, ain't nothing but desert. Cornfields, basically. Both in distance and in culture shock. Perhaps Terah was feeling in the 21 BC that oil is ripe for invasion. In fact, invaders arrive about a century later. Terah stops halfway at Canaan. He settles some 600 miles upriver in the busy caravan town of Haran, on Turkey's side of the border with Syria. After Terah dies, when Abraham's father dies, God tells Abraham to finish the trip to Canaan. That's when God promised to grow Abraham's family into a great nation. Quite a promise for a childish 75-year-old man with a 66-year-old wife. But Abraham obeys God, so he packed up and moved his household entourage and his herd south to what is now Israel. Yeah, Canaan came to Israel when Moses freed the people. That was the promised land, was Canaan, but it became Israel after Moses freed the people, and that was the promised land. Yeah, it makes sense. Out of Egypt, everything on the Moses freed the people out of Egypt. Let me just say that with the pharaohs and all that, but we won't get to that later on in another video. A decade later, still had no kids. Abraham's wife Sarah decided it's time to call for a surrogate mother. Ancient Middle Eastern custom allows it. By law, this child will belong to Sarah and Abraham. Sarah chooses her Egyptian-born servant Hagar as a substitute mother. Hagar gives birth to Abraham's first son, Ishmael. That's where the Islamic, stuff come from. This is where I put it together. I don't want to get killed. I'm just saying, correct me if I'm wrong. Because I really don't like to get in debates about religion, because, I take my faith serious, and I know other people take their faith serious. But I love to learn. If you're in the Islamic culture, you tell me. I don't want to debate. I just want to learn. And then I'm going to ask questions with you in the comment section, too, if if it don't make sense. If I don't understand, or if it don't make sense, I want to ask questions. So prepare for that. But God says the son in the mind for Abraham will come from Sarah. God actually shows up as a traveler in Abraham's camp and says so. Sarah overhears this. She's 91 at the time, way too old to have kids, she thinks, but not old enough to laugh, not too old to laugh. God hears the laugh and assures her in a gentle way that he'll get the last laugh. Within a year, Sarah gives birth to a boy, names him Isaac, a Hebrew for laughter. That's funny. Isaac is a Hebrew word for laughter, because she laughed. That makes sense. Seems appropriate given the history as well as the future. Isaac would fill the tent of his parents with joy. Sarah doesn't want Isaac to grow up having to split Abraham's wealth with Ishmael. In those days, the oldest son usually gets a double share of the inheritance and become the leader of the extended family. So Sarah convinces Adam to send Hagar and her son away. God approves to promising to take care of both sons and make them east into great nations. Make them both into great nations. I got to read that Quran because I want to know what happened with Ishmael. And then Isaac, you know, as a firm believer, we know what happened with Isaac. He had 2 sons. He had a beautiful life because they don't really say nothing about him. So Isaac's descendants will become the Jewish people, and Ishmael considered the father of the Arab people. You know, that's with the Quran. I gotta read that Quran. That Quran probably got some, you know, because they read in the book of Abraham. You know, and they really do in the Old Testament. Ishmael has a dozen sons to start a dozen tribes scattered from Egypt to Saudi Arabia. And then, did people really live hundreds of years before the devastating flood? People generally live for centuries, according to the Bible. Some live almost 1,000 years. Masakala lived longest, 969 years. People live that long today. Richard the Lionheart might still be telling the world. If people live that long today, Richard the Lionheart might still be telling his war stories from the Cascadians. As long as these numbers they're dwarfed by those in other ancient records. The clay prism from the world's first known civilization, Sumer, in what is now Iraq, says only 8 kings ruled the land up into the flood, and those 8 ruled for the total of 241,200 years. That's an average of 30,000 years per king. Damn! The shortest reign was 18,600 years. Man, shit. Maybe the ancients measured time differently than we do. Some history experts guess, or maybe those are polite exaggeration, a way of honoring beloved leaders. Perhaps a bit like giving some folks today honorary doctorates, even though they didn't spend a day in college. Others wonder if the numbers might be accurate. Perhaps the flood somehow changed the world in a way that dramatically cut lifespans. Maybe constant cloud cover before the flood gave way to blue skies and harmful sun rays. Or maybe the Gaspers released toxins previously buried deep in the earth. A quarter-million empire inscribed almost 4,000 years ago. And this submarine clay prism says 8 kings ruled the empire before the flood. Yeah. Then the next video I might make maybe more likely Sunday. I won't make another video Sunday, but this I might make it between Friday to Sunday. I'll make a video. We're gonna talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, God to Abraham, and Jacob and Esau. We're gonna talk about just Jacob and Esau, because Jacob, you know, after he betrayed his brother, you know, he got a whole story to himself. Then after that, we're gonna just tell about the rest of Jacob's life, and to Joseph and Joseph's life. Then we're gonna get hit on to Moses. So that's the next 3 videos I'm finna make a call studying with me in the Bible. If you got any questions, do it in the comments. And if not, you know, I got questions like, I don't have no questions. I just try to make up ones on the wing, but I don't have no questions. I'm not going to lie to y'all. That's what I want to share with y'all today. This is the video. I love you. Like and subscribe if you want to. If you don't, it's okay. Love you guys.